Welcome to Muscle Maintenance with InShape Fitness. I am Coach Kim, and today's podcast workout is a simple but effective plyometric workout called a hop, skip, and a jump. And that means we're going to be doing some hopping and skipping and jumping. Really basic exercises, none of which requires equipment, and all three of which require a decent amount of warming up. So we're going to do that first, and then really just a focus on staying really light and keeping your posture really strong and upright. And the reason that plyometrics are so valuable is because so many of your neurotransmitters terminate in your feet. And so, the whole concept of reflexology, it's the same kind of with exercise. The impact can be difficult on your joints, but the thing that's cool about plyometrics is that it wakens up a lot of dormant neurotransmitters, dormant neurons that reside or terminate in your feet, and therefore affect all of the soft tissues and all of your body as they send their way or make their way up from the feet up to the rest of your organs and your head. So let's start with a postural systems check and talk a little bit about a couple of dynamic moves that are really great for any warm-up. Okay, the purpose of warming up is multifaceted, but the main thing that you want to do is raise your body temperature a little bit and start blood moving around and fluids moving around inside of your body. And then with respect to the exercises that you're going to be doing in a particular workout, the warm-up itself is also really good in terms of activating specific tissues, certain motions and planes of motion that reinforce the stability of the body while you are doing whatever it is you want to be doing. So with today, it's going to be jumping and hopping and some light skipping. But first, we start with a couple of deep breaths. Your head is sitting on top of your neck, hopefully, and your neck is straight up and down, and your ears line up with your shoulders. That's the thing, in all seriousness, about the posture of your upper spine and your head. Your head weighs about 11 pounds, maybe a little bit more. And if you were holding a 10-pound weight even, you're going to struggle probably. Most people that I work with they're not able to just carry something that heavy around on their bodies. But your spine is meant to absorb the pressure bearing down on it from that heavy piece of equipment. And therefore, it's designed that way. But when your head is forward and you're pulling on the soft tissues that line the back of your neck and your upper back, and then collapsing the muscles and soft tissues that reside in the front of your neck and then your chest, you're altering the sort of mechanical basics, the basic functionality of the top part of your body. And that is not helpful in any form of exercise. So you want to make sure your head is on straight. And then you work your way down your body and making sure that your tummy muscles are zipped up. You're breathing deeply in through your nose and exhaling through your mouth. Your tailbone is tucked in a little bit, especially if you have a tendency to stick your butt out a little bit. And then think about your left leg versus your right leg. We're going to talk a little bit, and skipping is great for this, but we're going to talk a little bit about the strength between the two sides of your body as a function of lower leg movement and particularly hopping movement. So we're gonna talk a lot about that as we get started. But let's now just think about the very first thing that will help us feel like we are sort of warming up the body. Juicing up the tummy muscles is kind of how I feel like we really always want to start. So plop your body down, crawl down into the floor position that we know as a low plank or an elbow plank. And we're going to hold that position now for about 30 seconds. Your time starts now. We'll go to about 35 seconds actually. So you want to make sure your elbows and your shoulders are lined up vertically and that your butt is down. The plank should almost automatically feel like work. You're about halfway through. And now you are halfway through. So you're 15 seconds away from finishing. You should feel it. If you can't hold this position on your toes, drop to your knees. You can lower or shorten the lever and still feel a plank, and still get the benefits from it. All right, now lift your body up into downward facing dog. So you want to lift your body up onto your hands, and then lift your butt up into a position where you're creating a triangle with your body in the floor. Take a deep breath here. We're kind of stretching out the back of the leg a little bit. You should feel your hamstrings stretch out a little bit. Your calves could stretch out a little bit, and your butt is stretching just a little bit. We're just holding here in downward facing dog. Now what I want you to do is shift your body weight back down onto your knees, taking a deep breath and exhaling as you move down towards the floor. And then pause here in what we call quadruped, or hands and knees. So this exercise is just a spinal stability exercise. You're not going to move your body up and down, but rather you're going to balance your weight on your left hand and your right knee. Extend your right arm and your left leg straight out in opposite directions. So not up, just straight out. So it's called bird dog. And what that means is that through your right shoulder, your right bicep is right next to your ear, your right palm faces towards your head, your fingertips are extended out as far as possible, your arm is straight, and then your left leg extends straight out so that your leg is parallel to the floor. You don't lift your hip. So if you lift your hip, you're kind of you're using another plane of motion, and you're probably contracting your lower back muscles. You want to keep your back really straight. Your belly button is pulled in. And just hold this for a couple more seconds. Now, switch. Put the right hand, the left knee back down on the floor, back in the correct quadruped position, and extend the opposite limbs out. So now your left arm extends out straight. Again, watch the shoulder, don't lift the shoulder. Bicep next to the ear. Right leg extends out straight. Point your toes. So you're getting that diagonal. The pause allows the position itself to sort of sear itself into your neural pathways so that you understand what that feeling is, that your body understands what it feels like to be fully extended. Now, you're back on all fours. What I want you to do is lift your butt back up into that downward facing dog. And then now we're going to do a little bit of a heart rate boost. So we're going to do something we call pike squats or downward dog squats. So you're going to lower your body, bending your knees and lowering the body back down towards the floor, and then straightening back up into downward facing dog with your legs straight. So you lower your body down with a bent knees, and then straighten your body back up into downward facing dog. Let's keep doing that for another 20 seconds. Your time starts now. Inhale as you lower down. You exhale as you lower back up. You have 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Great. Rest in child's pose. If you need to, take a deep breath. We're going to do one more plank. We're going to do some push-ups, and then we're going to get on your feet. All right, so you're going to hold back go back to your elbows. You're going to position your shoulders again right above your elbows and lift your body up into that plank position. 30 seconds starts now. And again, keep your butt down. You can do this. These are hard. And, the sort of warm-up component of your workout is hard. The actual work that we're going to do, we're standing up in just a minute. We're going to do some hopping. We're going to do some skipping. We're going to do some bigger jumps. And all of that is far better produced. That performance is achieved when your body has been warmed up properly. So anytime you're thinking about going for a run, you can rest back in child's pose. We've got one more thing. We're going to do some push-ups, but rest in child's pose for a couple of breaths. Whenever you go out to a run, to a bicycle ride, anything, you want to warm up the body first. It makes a huge difference, and it trains you, especially if you use some version of a daily regimen as part of your wake-up routine every single day. That is the foundational habit forming that changes your life. Really just completely changes your whole perception about the way that exercise is supposed to fit into a healthy life. Okay, push-ups now. On your hands, back up from your elbows onto your hands. You want your hands and your shoulders. They should start out lining up vertically, but then widen your handstands, and that helps activate your chest muscles. Okay, so for 30 seconds, I don't care how many you do, I want you to lower by bending your elbows, inhaling on the way down, and then exhale as you push up, all the way up. Whether you're on your toes or on your knees, just take 30 seconds, go ahead and get started. See, we are halfway through already, and you're doing great. Again, it doesn't matter how many of these that you do, 30 seconds of this really difficult upper body movement that is also bearing down on your body in terms of gravity. So you're working your resistance, which means it elevates your heart rate, and you are getting a ton of core work in, right? Because you're in plank and you have to move. All right, let's go ahead and stand up onto your feet now. Again, the plyometric components of any workout, and I'm going to keep these fairly light, and I'll give you some options, some alternate things to do if plyometrics is difficult for you. And of course, do not attempt any of these exercises. If you have any concerns, you have to speak to your doctors first, your medical professional, before you enter into anything that you believe might be anything that is known to be somewhat risky. Now, plyometrics components can be achieved without necessarily leaving the floor completely with both feet, right? So that's why skipping is in here. In fact, let's start with some skipping. So if you're able to move around in your apartment or your home and you want to make like a circle or whatever, that's fine. But a stationary skip is fine too. So you lift up a knee really high, and let's make it a high knee skip and on purpose, right? So you're activating the glute. And then as you lift up, you leave the floor for just a half a second, a fractional second here, and then you alternate, right? So it's right knee up, left leg is the little hop, left knee up, right leg produces that little hop, that little skip. All right, so just keep that going for another 30 seconds. And if you're fit and you want to add something a little more intensive, you can raise your arms into a shoulder press. You could also go full rocket and extend the leg out straight with a kick, right? So tons and tons of different options for you if you are able to do so. Go ahead, you've got 10 more seconds to go. But the thing is to get excited about moving around and elevating your heart rate in this type of in these types of moves also demonstrates to you that you can elevate your heart rate. You don't need a cardio machine, which I am on a mission to get people to stop using these cardio machines as soon as possible. Get out, enjoy the world, use your apartment if you want, but I mean, skipping down the sidewalk, you know, I have a 10-year-old, so I'm used to doing that and looking like a fool anyway, but hey, it's okay. We can act like little kids when we're in national parks or in our local parks. So skipping is full on acceptable form of moving forward. Okay, now let's do a little bit of bunny hopping. 30 seconds, you can pretend like you're jumping rope and hold your arms at your sides and make little circles, but bend your knees slightly. You want soft knees here. You want to land lightly on the balls of your feet. Your time is going now. Excellent. You're doing great. You've got 15 more seconds to go. If you're fit and you want to do something different, lift up the left leg and hop 10 times on the right leg, then hop 10 times on the left leg. The thing about the right versus the left issue is that if you are right-handed, your left leg is not as strong as your right leg. If you are left-handed, your right leg maybe is a little weaker than your left leg. But if you want to live a healthy life and you end up engaging, you can rest, by the way, now, engaging in some activities that boost your heart rate and get you moving around, especially if you're going to do cool things like go for long hikes or go for a bicycle ride with friends, or, you know, bucket list some sort of competitive, you know, amateur competitive race. You're going to end up exacerbating the differences between the left leg and the right leg when you start moving and using your body more. So that's something to be conscious of. I try to get that into the brains of all the runners I work with in New York City, and it's hard because you think you got two legs, you're going to use both legs equally. That's not really what's happening. Okay, now let's do some big jumps. So this is the thing about big jumps. bigger jumps. So let's do a couple of squats. So if you separate your feet to about shoulder width apart, and you sit down into an imaginary chair and you lift up, like kind of allow momentum to work a little bit here with you, right? You're going to squeeze your glutes as you lift up, but then as you really get up high, you want to launch off the floor and then land obviously back down onto the balls of your feet and go back into another squat. If you can. Again, you've got to be careful and go at your own pace here. So if you can only lift a teeny tiny bit up, or if you can't lift your body up off the floor at all, you can sit into a chair and stand up slowly and go right back into a chair. Those are squats. Really standard, really simple. One of my favorite exercises. I do them every single day. But if you can lift your body, launch into the air into a squat jump, and like make it a high jump. Bring your heels back. Kick your feet back towards your butt. There you go. Then when you land down onto the floor, you are making an impact, a physical impact, and you are ensuring that the molecules, the neurons, the tissues that terminate in your feet are not going to go to sleep, go dormant, and present with issues as you, again, think about the way that you want to have a healthier lifestyle later on. It's all part and parcel to the same sort of general progression. You've got to protect, you've got to condition the body to make sure that you are strong enough to complete these exercises, which is one of the reasons why the daily warm up and the daily or the dynamic warm up is before any workouts. And then you also have to make sure that you are not skipping over any of the kind of boring stuff. So we're going to go now back to the high knee skip so that we can repeat this one time, and then I'm going to let you go because I try to keep these podcast workouts pretty short. But obviously there's a lot to learn from this, right? So you're skipping now. Again, if you're wanting to add into that rocket mentality and add a kick, that's cool. And if you are interested in pushing your hands up into the air up high, that also elevates your heart rate a little bit more. Another couple of seconds. Now we're going back to those bunny hops. And so now you're just lightly hopping on your feet. You can do a little bit of a twist here. We do these every weekend when I go out with the Roadrunners Club in New York to train adults who are running for this charity that we have called Team for Kids. And it's this really great charity. You sign up, you raise money for youth running programs in New York City public schools, and then you get this really great training program, and I'm one of the coaches. And so we do the little twist bunny hops every weekend to elevate our heart rate as we get ready to go out. And that diagonal, rotational movement through your hips and your waist doesn't seem like it's germane to running, but in fact, it very much is. And so it's important to think about running as not just, it seems like you're moving in one direction, right? You're just going forward, and that's one plane of motion. But a lot of parts of the body, particularly your hips and then your shoulders a little bit, are moving in multiple dimensions because of the mechanics that are required by running. So, especially when you're running outside. The last thing is are the jumps. All right, so we did squat jumps before. Now what I want you to try are a couple of long jumps. So pick a spot. You're going to squat down a little bit, and then you're going to want to jump forward. And then just turn yourself around and jump back. Now, I'm assuming, I'm in a Manhattan apartment. I, live in Harlem, which is just north of Central Park in Manhattan, New York City. So if you're listening from some other place, you might not appreciate this, but I live in an apartment which is fairly small. So I could maybe take 2 long jumps in my, I guess I could do it in my hallway, but in my living room, and then I've got to turn around and repeat them in the other direction. So whichever you're trying to do. Now, if you can't do these long jumps, and again, if you were doing just squats before, just go back to doing some squats. Another really good alternate to this exercise is to sit on the wall in terms of maintaining that mechanical sort of conditioning work that works the hips, the butt, the quads. Hold your position for about 30 seconds. You're going to feel your quads activate. You're going to feel your hips strained into that position where you're seated, but you're forced to sit properly with your back straight, with your shoulders back in order to hold and maintain that position. That is really, really difficult. Then what I would recommend, if you're not able to jump, the other thing that you could do, it is nowhere near as good for you as being able to move around and sort of launch up off of the floor a little bit, even if it's a little tiny bunny hops. But skipping is great. Skipping is my favorite alternate to plyometrics. It really is a fabulous way to ambulate your body, to move around. And then it's also a little more impactful than walking quickly, but it's less impactful than running, right? So the pounding of the joints. But you can also sit at your floor and do some toe tapping, some rapid toe tapping while you're seated in a chair. I would only do that if you really don't feel like you can, or if your doctor recommends that you absolutely should not move the body in the jumping sort of in those kinds of modalities, those types of movements. But let me know if you have questions. The thing you want to make sure you remember is this: plyometrics is really beneficial to your overall health because of its effect on as I said before, not just the soft tissue composition, but the neurotransmitters that control the movements in the lower limbs and throughout the body. So when you are hopping around or jumping around or skipping around, you are preventing dormancy. You are maintaining an active level of cellular movement and soft tissue maintenance that just doesn't you can't do when you're not moving around at all. So have a great day. I'll see you again next week with another workout. And later on this week, I'm going to talk about plyometrics more. I'll talk about the sort of a little more of the science and talk a little bit about some of my favorite jumpers. And obviously gymnastics competitors are going to be in there. One of my favorites is Simone Biles. So I read a book about her and Ali Reisman. My daughter just idolizes both of these young girls. And so I'll be talking about those guys later in the week. Okay, have a great day.